Welcome to Bethlehem Back Chat, where we talk about the background and backstories of our worship and community as Lutherans.
I'm Pastor Dan Smail, Senior Pastor here at Bethlehem Lutheran in Glenshaw.
And I'm Wendy Farone, a member here at Bethlehem and producer of the podcast. The topic for today is pretty special to us because it's about young adults in global mission. And we have a dear member um, who has served in our membership for a long time. His family is here, his grandparents are here, and he is in a faraway land. And we wanted to touch base with him so he could feel at home and we could feel as if he's home with us. So many offer stewardship and giving and volunteerism and engage in our local churches and communities, but some of us kind of go the extra mile and in support of brief mission trips. I just came back from one, 10 days to 2 weeks in Appalachia. But at Bethlehem, we've had a few of those. Further, though, some of us move beyond that and engage their whole year of their life in serving others. And that friend of ours is Josh Kenst, and we are thrilled to have him with us today. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Pastor Dan. It's great to be here on this podcast with you all today.
Now, listen, Josh, we had, when Wendy started, she had said, good morning. What time is it? What time is it in Senegal?
It is
almost
7 o'clock here. Yeah,
okay.
It's almost 7 o'clock here.
In the evening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yes, 7 p.m. Yep, 7 p.m.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, it's good to be with you, buddy. And if it's okay with you, as we move through this podcast, we'll just ask you a couple of questions about your experience and the organization that you're connected with and some of the learning that you have done along the way. Sound good?
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. So just to get started, I'll offer up the first question, and I'm eager to hear your response to this one because I think it'll be helpful for folks to understand more about this. We call it YAGM, which means something to all of us, but might not mean a whole lot of anything to someone who's not connected with the ELCA or this particular organization. So just give us a sense, Josh, of what young adults in global mission is all about.
Yeah, so as you say, YAGM or YAGM stands for Young Adults in Global Mission. It is a year-long opportunity for young adults to go abroad. And, mission means different things, different people. In the training that I had pre-departure for Senegal, West Africa, where I am currently, I had to learn a couple of different things. And one of the things was a conversation on what is mission, what are we doing here? And what we're doing here is really accompaniment. It's all about relationship. The ELCA has partnerships with other countries, and these partnerships and relationships allow the ELCA to send young folks to those other countries. The ELCA does not send young adults abroad without that country's invitation. So this is not something that's being forced. It's all about relationship, all purely invitational.
Interesting. That's a good distinction to make.
Yeah, I love that. And my question is, well, I've just taken courses in missiology and what mission really is. And I think sometimes when we think of mission, we think we're going there to fix a part of them that's wrong. And I love that you brought up the idea of relationship. It's just building a communal relationship together so that we can share and interact our cultures together. This is wonderful. So how long have you been there, Josh?
So I've been in Senegal since August 29th-ish.
Okay.
We departed the States on the 28th, and give or take, the time change between the flight and the arrival. It was about the 29th. That's how long I've been here. Current count, I've been in country for 151 days.
But who's
My
counting?
count's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was gone for 10 days in Kentucky and I was homesick. So, so I have done a little research on Senegal and the culture there just in preparation for this and because I'm really interested. But can you give me some insight into what the climate is there?
Yeah. So Senegal has two seasons. There's the rainy season, which happens roughly around, think your June, July, up until about October, middle of October, November. And then it's the dry season from November until whenever the rainy season starts. I was talking to a Finnish missionary who's here, and she was telling me that it was in 2023, the rainy season, I believe she said started in May. And that's uncommon. That's very rare.
Hmm.
So some rainy seasons will vary. They'll have either a lot of rain or not so much rain. And there was even a drought at one point. She was telling me. Um, so that's kind of the climate. It's and depending on where you are, if you're closer to the coast, think Dakar, think some of the other San Luis, where it's on the coast, there's more humidity. But where I am in Fatigue, it's more desert, so there's very little to no humidity, and it's dry,
Hmm.
and it's
Tolerable then. Yeah.
What are the temps
Yeah.
like, buddy? What are in terms of the heat? And because that's always the question we get when folks ask, how is Josh? Is it hot there? That's sort of
Yeah. So today the high reached 98.
nice.
So that's been so it's been, and it usually reaches the high temp around 3-4 o'clock my time. So what would that be, like, I think 9 or 10 o'clock your time.
Yeah. But it's a
That's
dry
usually
heat,
when we're at
right?
the peak height for the day.
That's right. It's a dry
Yeah.
heat, so you
Yeah.
don't feel it. It's
Doesn't feel bad at all.
I want to
But
tell you
then at
something right now. I
night,
don't care if
because
it's a dry
Senegal,
heat. 98 is 98.
but at night, that's when the temperature plummets because I am in a desert. So at night, when the sun goes down and everything starts cooling off, that's when it'll hit temperatures as cool as the 60s.
Hmm.
I don't think it's gone to the 50s, but 60, 70 at night. Sometimes it'll be still that temperature in the morning when I begin my walk to work.
Gotcha.
Oh. So what's your favorite food over there?
That's a good question. Um, so context wise, a lot of the diet here is based on rice, couscous. It's a very agricultural based diet, very grain heavy. There's a lot of fish. San Luis is where there's a lot of fishermen. I got a chance to see some of the fishing boats there, so it's very fish heavy diet. There is a lot of farm animals, so there are chickens, there are goats and lambs, so that can be a dietary thing. My personal favorite dish has been chebujen. It's a very traditional Senegalese dish. It's a type of rice. It's kind of got a little bit of a kick to it, very spicy. There's usually some fish. There's a mixture of potatoes, some carrots, and other veggies and starches. Um, and I don't know what you've found in your research, but depending on the household one lives in, we eat around a bowl. In my household, we typically sit on the floor and eat from a bowl. I know the other volunteer who's here in Fatigue, her family has a table that they'll eat around. But for me and my family, we sit on the floor, we eat around the table. I'll use a spoon, but the others, some of them will use their hands. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah. So what food are you going to eat first when you get back to the States?
Well, because of how different my diet has been, because of how fresh and unprocessed all the food has been, I'm probably going to stick to a rice and maybe fish diet, maybe a rice and chicken diet. It just just until I get used to eating our type of food again,
Sure.
because how different it is.
Very good. Very good. Pastor Dan,
Mhm.
I think you were going to talk a little bit about the group that went over there.
Yeah,
And
as Wendy and I prepared, one of the things I was interested in, Josh, was to see how connected you were with other young people in young adults in global mission, if you were more isolated or on your own. Uh, Give us a sense of how connected you are with your congregation and whether there's a pastor there who helps to coordinate your work. So give us a sense of, if you're willing, buddy, your relationships while you've been there in Senegal, some of your connections.
Okay. Yeah, I can absolutely do that. And I'll start with the more local region here in Senegal, and I'll branch out to the other cohorts. So starting here, just in fatigue. It's me and other, uh, I'm going to use the term missionary and volunteer interchangeably just because missionary does have that historical weight to it. So I'll use those two terms interchangeably throughout the podcast. But I'm here with another volunteer, another missionary, and we work in the same office. The office is located at the church. It's the Lutheran Church of Senegal in Fatigue. At the church, we have the president, think the bishop of the region of Senegal. So he's here. His office is here. The vice president's office is here as well. So those are the two pastors in the office that I'll attend to. One of them is technically my overall supervisor, but I really report to both. Then I have my two other supervisors who are not ordained. So the one is Anne Marie. She does a lot of work with the youth ministry. And the other is Wally Chow. Wally Chow does some work with the preschools and the education and the organization of that. So that's kind of the local level here in Fatigue. Branching outward to the rest of Senegal. So there's two of us here in Fatigue. There's two in Linguère, a married couple, and then there's two in Yumbel, which is a little region outside Dakar. And then there's Pastor Mitch. Pastor Mitch, her office is located in Dakar as well. She came to Fatigue. She was doing some site visits back in December after our first retreat. So she came here to Fatigue, which is about 2.5 hours outside Dakar, going east. And then she went to Linguère. So we have semi-regular contact with her, mostly through email. And this is the same with the other folks in our cohort as well. We have a WhatsApp chat, with just our cohort. And then we have a WhatsApp chat with our cohort and Pastor Mitch. And then we have a WhatsApp chat with the other cohorts throughout the rest of the world. I'm not sure if we want to talk about that now, of how many cuts of programs we want to talk about now, but I do hear from some of the other YAGMs and the other cohorts on a basis, usually wishing each other happy birthday, Merry Christmas, etc., stuff like that, and just kind of check in.
So that's nice. So there is some support that you are sharing with one another, even if it is at a distance. The connection is life-giving, and you're able to support one another, offer encouragement, and those kinds of things along the way.
Good. So I have a little bit more substantial question than the prior ones I've asked about your food and the climate. I'm curious about what your mission is over there. What do you do while you're over there? What are you assigned to, and what is your missional work?
And we lost them.
Back on.
Yeah, let's just give it a minute. See if we can reconnect.
He's an awful long ways away to expect. We
Right, for
we have a
sure.
tendency to think that all places have good internet like we do. And I mean, he's in the desert in West Africa, for crying
That's exactly right.
What are the
It's
chances.
not, and he did share with us earlier on that it's just not guaranteed that, sometimes it works out that the signal's strong and
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't. So we'll just give him a second here.
So while we're waiting for that, I do have some background that people might find interesting about this global mission. The covers, I think they extended it. It was the young people, the people that they call young adults, are in the ages between 21 and 35.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's
So that's a fair span of, in terms of the ages.
agreed. It is wider, and anyone that's interested in such a thing could certainly go to the ELCA.org website and find out more. Just looking up global mission.
Perfect. All right, we got you back, buddy.
Welcome back, Josh.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No
I was
worries.
afraid that would happen.
So I was just asking about what your work is over there. What is your mission and the intentions and goals of your work there?
Okay. All right. There we go. It's stable now.
Did you hear my question or no?
I did not. Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Sure. I'm curious about if you would share with us about what the intention of your mission there is, what work you do, and how you build relationship over there. What does your day-to-day work look like in the church and with the mission?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, my day to day, it's very short. I'll wake up and I'll begin my walk to the office at about 8:30. I'll get there around 9 o'clock, and I'll work in the office until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. What I have been doing, the project that I've been assigned to do, is to make these little picture notebooks. So I've been cutting out pictures from magazines and pasting them into these little notebooks, excuse me, that'll be sent to preschools throughout Fatigue in Senegal. Um, we we actually ran out of magazines though, probably back in October. So I've been using coloring books. So I've been coloring pictures and cutting them out and posting them into these notebooks. So that's one part of the job that I've been doing. Other parts of the job, back during the week of Christmas, the 27th through the 28th, I was in a local village that was hosting a retreat for for kids during their time off from school. That started at about 10 o'clock on the 27th, and it was more music, more just kind of gathering the kids together, dancing, all that stuff. And then on the 28th, that next day, there was more education classes, lectures, more music, more dancing.
Were you
So that's the only
dancing?
retreat.
Were you dancing, Josh?
I did.
Okay, good.
My supervisor Anne Marie pulled me into the circle, and well, she pulled me into the circle, but then I also voluntarily got up because I can't just be a
No, I
volunteer
think
and
it's great.
I have to be involved in that. I want to be involved
Right.
in that.
Of course.
Um,
Of course. Yeah. So that sounds to me like one of the places that brings you joy, being around the other youth, younger kids, and I love the idea of coloring for students. What do the preschoolers do with the little books or the coloring page?
Currently, I don't know. I've just been making them, and they haven't been taken to any of the preschools yet. But I'm sure that when the time comes and they get distributed, my hope is that it might inspire creativity for the kids. I hope that if I do this work well and I'm creative enough, it might inspire kids to just kind of to touch into their own creativity, um, using some of the pictures from the magazines I've cut out. I hope it broadens, gives them a sense of what the outside world is like, gives them a sense of the beauty and the diversity of not only their culture but also the global world
That's
and
what
the multiple cultures.
I was wondering if they were pictures of other cultures or Western civilization or anything out beyond where they presently are. I wondered if that was the case. That's great. Yeah.
So, Josh, I had another quick question, and you kind of gave us an overview of some of the things that you have been up to. Have there been any particularly poignant moments that you're going to bring back home with you that will be a source of inspiration? Any high points that have brought you lots and lots of joy and were very memorable?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Those are all good questions.
Yeah. Oh man, memorable. Gosh. Well, okay, yeah. So I'll provide some context here. Right now is the African Cup. It's the large soccer championship here. Uh, that's every country in Africa is playing in and competing in. So I've been watching a couple of those soccer matches or football matches, and I'll tell you what, when you're sitting in a house with people watching your country's team play, you feel like you're at the stadium. The way I've seen my host family get up and cheer and dance and chant, not just when the game ends, no, every time Senegal scores.
Yeah.
Like they'll drum on empty 5-gallon buckets, they'll get up, they'll chant, they'll dance, and it's really that level of zeal, and maybe that's really where I'm going with this. That level of zeal that I've seen watching a soccer match or going to worship here, you get immersed, and you're there, and the passion is there, and that's what I'll bring back with me. That passion and that zeal. It's just unparalleled to anything I've ever seen.
That's beautiful. So, how is Senegal doing in the cup play, in the African Cup play?
We are doing fantastic. We've won 3 matches so far. I was under the weather for the first match, but I could hear my family chanting and cheering during the
So
first match.
it's good news.
But I caught the.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any way that you could?
Yeah.
Is there any way you could find some means of sharing a pirate game with your host family? Or do you think it would not be as interesting?
Probably. I don't. Yeah, probably. I don't know how interested they would really be in that.
Right, that's what I worry. It was just the passion wouldn't be there for the baseball.
Yeah, I don't think they would be as interested in it. Or they might be. I don't know. I've had to find kind of creative ways to share Pittsburgh culture with them. And what I did do, I can actually show this here on camera, but I don't know if folks on the podcast will see it. So I don't know if my mom shared this with you, but during my first week in Dakar, we were given the gift of 2 traditional Senegalese outfits. So when I came to Fatigue, I had an outfit made, and I had it made with this black and yellow fabric.
Oh, there you go. Very nice.
And
the folks that are going to be hearing this podcast can't necessarily see this, but we'll just describe it. It's a beautiful, beautiful ensemble that Josh just held up with intricate designs all around the collar and down the front where it comes together. And he has incorporated the black and gold and tremendous designs and patterns, and creatively found a way to represent his hometown.
So Josh, if you'll send me a picture, I can put that on the thumbnail.
Oh, good call. That's perfect.
Absolutely. And not only did I get the fabric for that outfit to be made, but I also bought fabric for everyone in my host family to also make outfits with that fabric as well.
Nice.
So I've given them the gift of Pittsburgh colors, and I've done my best to explain that to them, that these are the colors of my home city.
I love it. So, Josh, you mentioned worship. I'm curious. Now, you know exactly how Lutheran worship here at Bethlehem works. Tell me about what worship in that Lutheran uh, congregation out there is. What's it like?
Yeah. So liturgically speaking, it's very similar. We I'm still kind of working on learning how to understand the the songs, hearing them. I'm working on learning and understanding them. Um, but liturgically, it's very similar. The only difference is in my congregation or in the congregation here, they don't have an organ. So a lot of the music it's sung. There's occasionally guitar. Uh, there's drums. They use drums. If you would go to a Catholic church or maybe a different Lutheran church, it might be different music wise. It just depends on what means the congregation has. Christmas Day, I was celebrating with a retired pastor, a retired Lutheran pastor, and we were actually watching mass, different Christmas masses held by the Catholic Church, and I heard more piano being used in those. But yeah, so it just depends on the church has. Preaching, it's not 15 minutes. It's longer. Well, it depends on the pastor, but there's
Music to my ears, Josh. Music to my ears.
But I think the one thing that I really so there's two things I want to highlight though about the liturgy here. So one of the things I want to highlight is that at the end of the service, that's when they'll do their announcements. And when they're doing their announcements, they'll actually invite new members or visitors who come to the church to come up to the front to the altar and introduce themselves, say where they're from, what they're doing, who they are, and kind of give a little bit about themselves. And I thought that's a wonderful idea. Part of the Senegalese culture is this concept of Terenga, that's what's called in Wolof, Sere, it's Tadanga. It's this hospitality. Hospitality is huge. So by having these people kind of giving them the space to introduce themselves after service and to say who they are, that's their way of welcoming people into the culture, into the congregation. The other thing I want to highlight is in the Senegalese culture, I don't know how long ago, but part of the culture was when a child was born, the child would be taken to a medicine man and to be checked up on, and this is kind of like a medical um, um, procedure that was done, but they've taken that now um, and made it part of the liturgy. So whenever a baby has been born and they're being wrapped onto their mother's back, because that's how women will carry their children. They will have their children placed on their backs and then they'll wrap a piece of fabric around their upper bodies. So there's a liturgy for the first time a child is wrapped onto his or her mother's backs, and this will be done in a congregation. So the woman will come up with her child, she'll lean forward so that her back is flat, and the child will be placed on her back, and then she'll tie the fabric, the cloth around her. And this is a part of the liturgy that has its traditional historical roots in the culture.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Hmm.
So Wendy, we've been talking a lot of positives. You had a question that we were talking about earlier, something along the lines of what will you be, excited to leave behind, or are there any inconveniences that that you'll be eager to overcome or won't necessarily miss when it's time to come home?
It's a funny thing. I think kind of the one inconvenience I'll miss is the heat and the lack of season. I'll switch my camera around here so you can see it, but right here, hanging from the ceiling, is a net. And that net goes over my bed at night to keep the mosquitoes out.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to not having to have a net
Fair
tarped over
enough.
my bed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah.
Do they, like, during the day, are they around at all? Like, do you get bit up all day long?
Not so much during the day. At least I haven't noticed it. But I'm covered pretty much head to toe. Senegalese culture is very conservative, so I mean, you'll see some men wearing shorts, but it's traditional kind of expectation that men will wear pants
Yeah.
and be covered up. Um, so I don't really notice them biting. It's usually when I'm back in my host family, when I'm in an enclosed space. That's where the mosquitoes are, and that's when I'll get bitten up. I can't tell you how many times I've woken up in the morning and looked at my feet and just see them covered with
Oh, no
bug
kidding.
bites.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So why is that? That your net wasn't, and I'm not being facetious, is it just the net doesn't cover you entirely, or somehow the mosquitoes find a way in?
Yeah, I would say the mosquitoes find a way in. It drapes over the entire
Yeah, it
bed.
looked like it was pretty extensive.
Yeah. So what I have to do is I have to shake the net out first before I tarp it over my
Okay.
bed. But these nets, I mean, it's not uncommon for them to get small holes in them or
I got
for a bug to find its way in.
right.
It's just kind of one of those things.
So
I see.
do the mosquitoes carry diseases? Do you have to be in fear of that?
Yeah. So okay, this is a good question. So I do have malaria pills that I
Oh,
take one a day at the same time, and it's usually something I eat with food. But let's talk about the history of that because that's Africa. There's so many different stereotypes when people hear and think about Africa. And I think when people think about Africa, they think, oh, malaria, oh, the bugs and stuff. Yes, that is a reality. But I want to highlight something crucial. Malaria didn't start here in Africa. When colonization happened and you had people from Europe coming into Africa, the mosquitoes got the malaria from the European colonizers.
Hmm.
That's how it got here. It wasn't something that was started here. It was something that was brought over. Um, so that's kind of
yeah.
that's kind of been one of the real eye-opening things about this experience. Just to give a quick shout out to that, uh, the history, the reality of colonization and its adverse effects on a culture, the way it's set, uh, not just African culture, but even Senegalese culture, the way the Senegalese have been affected. Uh, you know, there's just a lot there, and I can't do enough justice to explain that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's why I think it's really important that you serve your mission through relationship rather than and learning about their culture rather than going because another stereotype is that when you're on mission you go in to fix people or you go to show them the right way to do things and when you
Or the right way to believe. Or, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's right. That's right. And whether we're in Eastern Kentucky where I was or where you are in Senegal, the idea of mission has to be to work as companions and in relationship with. And so I'm glad to hear that that's what your work is over there.
yeah. And kind of a bit about this work too. It's not just I'm here and doing the office thing and that's that. No, we do have discussions. We do have reading material.
Mm.
Every cohort gets a set list of materials that they can use to educate themselves about every culture that they go to. One of the things that we had to read was this book called African Friends and Money Matters.
Huh.
It's an economic, sociological reading of African culture, and there's a lot of stuff in here about the Senegalese too. So I've had to learn a little bit about that. Um, the book has there's some questionable things about the books from what I've heard from other people, but so I've had to learn about that. But then part of it too, learning about colonization, learning about racism, we had to read a book called Waking Up White by Debbie Irving. And I wrote about that in one of my earlier newsletters.
We've been
Um,
posting those. Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the book that I'm reading now. That will go from the next retreat, but this is part of the work. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
I
important work.
just am so amazed by this, the energy and the dedication that it takes to dedicate one's a whole year of their life to learning about another culture and being immersed in it, and in order to bring Christianity to light in you and to others. It just is, it's quite an honorable adventure.
Yeah, we're grateful for your work. It's important work. I mean, we're just getting the very, very tip of the iceberg in our conversation today, but even what you're sharing now gives us a sense of how impactful your time, and I'm using that intentionally. It's just your time, your presence there, how impactful that can be before you ever prepare a packet or visit with a family or participate in worship or hop into that dance. I mean, the fact that you have embraced this endeavor with your whole heart and have contributed so much of yourself is a testament, Josh, to your commitment to the gospel, and we are sincerely grateful for your work and your witness. Um, as we come to a close, are there final words, a closing thought, anything at all you want to offer, you want to be sure becomes a part of our conversation today?
yeah. I need to think about that here. First off, I appreciate the praise. Um, this isn't easy. Uh, this endeavor for anyone, regardless of what program a person goes into, and you're giving a person in this program is committed to that year, and that's I've had to sacrifice certain things to be here. So I think and there have been times where I haven't really appreciated this program. I'll just be upfront about that
Yeah.
as well, and it does come with its challenges. I think so. If anyone's going to really pursue this, um, I hope that they would come into this program with an open heart, with um, an open mind, with the conviction to be committed to the year of service, um, and to just kind of be ready to have their worldview change, to have uh, certain convictions that were held prior to being here challenged, and to really actually be uncomfortable. There have been, I can't, begin to describe how many times there have been moments of discomfort because of the ways I've seen things are so different than what I'm used to, culturally, personally. So it's not easy, uh, but I would say that it's worth it. It's hard. There's just no, I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
No, it's important to hear, but in light of that, it sounds like it's challenging. Um, but based upon what you were sharing earlier, it's not just challenging, it's also rewarding at the same time. And you're sort of caught in the midst of that tension to some degree.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way to summarize that.
And it
Yeah.
takes a while to acclimate and get your bearings, I'm sure, when everything is so different. And to be away from home, it's not like you can just jump on a plane and be here tomorrow. It's going to take some effort.
Oh, for sure.
So to be so dedicated to and kind of embrace the challenge and embrace your commitment and recognize that you're doing God's work there. Um, uh, yeah, I understand why it would be challenging, but also how how what a revelation to see another culture from the eyes of the family that you're being hosted by and by the congregation that you're accessing. um you're going to have some really good stories to tell when you come back, and I hope you'll share those with us.
Josh,
Absolutely.
if someone was interested in connecting with this program, what's the best way to start that conversation?
I would say just go online. Just go onto the ELCA website, go to Young Adults in Global Mission, fill out the application. I actually think I think this is the last week for people to apply. I think this
Oh,
is
wow.
like the
Okay.
deadline week. So if you really want to apply, do it now while you have a chance. The minimum age, I believe, is 20, and now the cutoff age is actually 35. We increased that now. But yeah, I would say if you're going to do it, don't wait. Don't overthink it. If it's on your heart, then follow that. Trust yourself and just go for it.
Yeah.
And whatever else happens, happens.
Yeah, right on. Well said.
Love it. Love it. Well, we can't wait for you to come back home and to share your stories. We're excited for that.
Yeah, it's been good to catch up with you. I know you know this already, but we certainly do miss you. You're a part of the fabric of this congregation, and there are so many times throughout the course of the year, whether it's hanging Christmas decorations or a certain anthem in the choir loft, whatever the case may be, where somebody says, "Where's Josh?" You know, we need Josh. We need Josh. So you're loved, partner. You're missed. You have our full support, but keep on keeping on. Live into this promise. Share all your gifts. Enjoy every moment as much as you possibly can. And when the time is right, know that you'll have a warm and hearty homecoming waiting for you.
That's for sure. God bless you.
God bless you, buddy.
I do have a question for you both.
Sure.
Going on to that last question, who's going to hang the cloth across the cross during the Lent and Easter season?
We might just have to go without it. It takes a person of great bravery.
That's right.
To get that up there, and I'm not sure of any over enthusiastic volunteers at the moment. So the cross may just be the cross for this Holy Week in Easter. We'll see. And for those listening, Josh is referring to a process. We have a very, very large cross in our chancel, the front of the sanctuary, beautiful wooden oak cross, upon which is draped during the height of the Lenten season, a black shroud, a black cloth draped over the arms of the cross. And then at the end of Good Friday services, that comes down in preparation for the Easter Vigil and Easter services. A big white shroud cloth is draped over that massive cross. And Josh has been kind enough in years past to climb up a ladder quite a ways, as a matter of fact, and do that work for us. So that's what he's referencing. And as I shared, I'm not quite sure who's going to do that, Josh, if it gets done at all. So time will tell, buddy. But I'll if we get somebody up there, I'll get a picture and shoot you a text.
For sure.
Sounds good.
All right. Wonderful. God bless you, partner. And thanks so much, everybody, for taking the time to listen to us once again. We're grateful for your support. God bless. Take care. And hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Hey, take care.